Good morning, it's me, Eileen. I just woke up from, what time is it? It's 4:08. So I just woke up from a crazy ass dream. Pardon me. It's horrible. Anyway, creepy lady's back. Well, she was back. She started out the dream, let's say that. Oh. Okay, I woke up about 10 minutes ago, so it's 4:10 in the morning. Pardon. I needed to get this out for some reason. So, creepy lady, she was standing in the street. She was standing in the street, like across the street from where I was, and I saw her. It was the same lady, like her face was strange, her eyes were too big, and she still had the really big mouth, like the really big smile. And long hair. She was kind of like gray skinned, I guess, I don't know. She was she was across the street watching. I guess I'll just, creepy lady, I guess I'll just call her the watcher, because she's just watching whatever dream she's in. I had a couple dreams of her, but this one was by far the worst. Anyway, she was standing across the street watching, and then these cops drove by really fast with their lights flashing and stuff. And I was walking down the street, and it was daylight when I started walking, and it was nighttime when the cops went by. So I guess there was an obvious time change there for a specific reason. And that's how the dream started, is cops flying down the street. And then for some reason I had to follow them. And I followed them just a little ways. And then I was absorbed into this house. And this house was like old Victorian house. Old Victorian house. It was a beautiful house, like when you first started looking at it. It was a beautiful house, and then I went in, and there was like blood splatters everywhere. It was like the whole entire house had been dipped in blood, and just kind of saturated the walls and the ceilings and the floor, and the walls and the ceilings and the floor were totally covered in blood. And then this one girl, she survived, and she was talking about about this guy who wore like a mask of some kind. It was a silver mask, and it had weird writing on it, I guess. And she was freaking out. She had to pretend she was dead so she would get missed. And she ended up under a pile of other dead bodies. And then she showed us the basement, which was terrifying. It was like covered, like the walls were just like stacked with dead bodies. The dead bodies were like lined up against the wall, all four walls for the entire house. And then there was like piles of them all over the floor. Yeah, there's just piles of them. Anyway, so she escaped, and she was talking about this guy in a silver mask. And it was like, the face part was flat, was a flat plate of silver, but there was like black inscribing on it, but it was in English. And then there's on each side of the face was another steel plate, but it was silver. Like this would be steel, like the front part was steel, but these parts were actually silver. And they kind of were a triangle, trapezoid, weird, I don't even know. Because when she was drawing it, she was telling us, I was drawing it, and, I was picturing it in my head. What else? Yeah, anyway, this guy, he was, it turned out he was like a demon. And I'm not a big believer in demons. Well, that is complicated. But I'm not a big believer in their powers. How's that? They don't have as much power as everyone gives them. But this one was like really terrifying. I guess it was a nightmare, so it had to be. But I was in the house, in the basement, and then as we were going through the house, one of the walls collapsed, and like bodies piled out. And these weren't like old bodies, like all these bodies. Like we ended up having to take all the walls down for the whole entire house, and every time we took a wall down, more bodies would fall out. So it was like they're in between the walls, they're in the floors, they weren't in the ceiling. But I guess if they're in the floor, then they would be in the ceiling. Anyway, I'm sleepy. They were everywhere, and they weren't old. Like they hadn't, like it had just happened. So all these people were alive just a few minutes ago. And then all of them were dead and put in the walls. They were like fresh, I guess is the best way to say it. Some of them were decapitated, some of them were dismembered. They didn't have anything particular weirdness to it. And then somewhere along the line, they kind of found this weird altar in the in the basement. It was in the basement. I would say it was in the north wall. It didn't really make any sense. It was just like a little platform that like three 5x8s or something. It wasn't that big. It was like 6-8 inches long. Sorry, my camera ran out of battery, so I'm using my computer. Altar. I don't know, 6 inches. 4, 5, maybe 8 inches. 4 or 5 high. On the bottom. On the floor. And there wasn't anything really spectacular about it, except it had the same writing as it did on his mask. And the girl, she never went into detail on how all these people died. They just sort of started bleeding. She said they started bleeding. But, I made coffee in the interim. I kind of figured since I was up at God Awful that I don't think I'm going to go back to sleep. It was a really graphic dream. Same scribbly writing on the altar. And the girl, she said they just sort of came apart, is the best way she described it. Like they went insane and like their head popped off, but the guy, the demon thing, that it would actually, like when I could see it, I don't know, it's very, when dreams are just weird, anyway, I could see how she was explaining stuff. Is like, he would like touch their neck and then their head would fly off. But there was symptoms to being haunted by this demon thing. It was people would start thinking you're insane, so you're talking to yourself. And then you would start getting like paranoid and freaky. And then you would start bleeding from the nose. And the blood wasn't real. It was purple. It wasn't like red blood. It was purple. Then you would just be possessed. And then you would explode. Basically. So we found this house and we went from top to bottom and we uncovered all these bodies. All these bodies from the walls. It was really gross. Hole in the wall. And they were fresh. They weren't like maybe not even a day old. Because she said it happened throughout the night. So anyway, it was gruesome. Let's just leave it at that. That house was gruesome. Anyway, so we left the house. I left the house. And the girl went with the cops, and then they just cordoned off the house, and they were doing their investigating thing. And then I found 2 more people who were being affected by this thing. And he was like, I don't know, he was like gathering people to a new house so he could do the same thing. But it turned out, this one guy has been investigating these murders for decades, and he was coming across these body houses, like, for decades. He kept trying to figure out how it was getting done, and this last house was the freshest he'd ever seen it. And he was like, I guess he was like a private investigator, I don't know, and he was like investigating. He talked to the girl, he talked to me, he talked to the people, the cops, and he investigated the house. And he had discovered that there was a family trait that the demon was looking for and hunting and killing everyone off. And it turned out like entire family lines through like generations had been killed off because of this demon, because they had a family trait. But I have no idea what that family trait was. I didn't explain it to myself in my dream, I guess. But there's hundreds and hundreds of lines that had died because of this one trait. And it was passed from, I think it was from the mother's side. And the demon didn't enjoy it very much, so he just killed anyone who had this trait. And that's where all the bodies were from. It was from the mother's side. But that's just, now that I'm starting to wake up, it's starting to make less sense. Anyway, so there was this guy in a van, and originally the van was white. And the private investigator stopped the guy in the van because he He just knew that this guy in the van was the next victim. And it worked out. That whole day, the guy got paranoid. He started, like, talking to himself. He started, like, he started bleeding purple. And so all the symptoms were there. And I was like, weird. And this kid was suddenly drawn to this house. And the house was like another... It wasn't Victorian. It was more like a ranch-style house. Anyway, but the demon caught on that we had found him, and we knew we were really close to like capturing him. So he started pulling these really horrible pranks. Like he would kidnap someone, and then we would have to phone a certain number at the certain time from 2 different phones. So we'd have to coordinate with each other, like we would be dialing at the same time, and we would have to like phone the phone number at the same time in order for this person to live. And if we didn't do it at exactly the same time, they would die a horrible death. Drawn and quartered is how they died, because we didn't do it the first time. And then he took over a hospital, and he said the same thing, but the whole hospital would die. It was horrible. But we ended up calling the same number at the same time, and we kind of caught up with him, so he had to keep his word. It makes no sense to me. And he was like... And then he vanished until evening. And then we all went back to the rancher's house to see if we could find anything of use. And there was like the kid in the van. Somewhere along the line he vanished, and he ended up dead. And he was like in the process of kind of becoming dismembered, but he was in his van. He wasn't in the house. His van was parked in front of the house, and he was like being dismembered inside his van. And his van went from white to red, blood red, like it was just gross. And then like the house, it was like the demon teleported all these bodies into the house and then like exploded them, killed them off. And the private investigator was like, he didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to do. But we were standing in this ranch-style house, looking around, and we were like, it was just too gruesome to behold. Like, the imagination, like my dreams, like, I dream of demons quite a bit, and they usually involve some sort of gruesome things. But this was really, really horrible. Because there was like heads in boxes. Like the demon was sending the private investigator and me heads in these boxes. Like it was just the head. And they were really fresh. And they were like of old people, of babies, of like mid-range people. Like they were in boxes, but they were wearing the same mask as the demon was, and they were like, they had like that terror look on their face, and he would cover them in this like black velvet, but the velvet heads, the symbols burned into, I can't even reproduce. They were really squiggly, and they didn't really go up or down or across. They kind of happened wherever. But there's like this cloth. And you know, as soon as you get this glass box covered in a black cloth, in a nightmare, it's not going to be pretty. So that's what happened with like heads being sent to us. And there's a mall. Like this dream is really disjointed. It was like there's some sort of mall, and No, I can't remember that part. See, it's starting to fade. I kind of wish I could have gotten this while I was... Like, I wish I could record my dreams, like electrodes in my brain. And then I could record it, just show you these horrible images that are in my dreams. Anyway, like, horror movies have nothing on my nightmares. Like, nothing. Like, wow. Anyway, we got out of that house. The mask. It was just lying on the sidewalk. And we still had no clue who or what it was. And the creepy lady was, again, at the end of my dream. She was across the street just watching. Now, yeah, this has been a really long video. Sorry if I have a lot of yawning, but I'll see what I can do. If I can edit it out somehow, I don't know. It's freaking early. I was awake before the birds. I don't know if you can hear them now. Anyway, it was a... No, it was a bad dream. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and I hope I hope I don't bore you when I'm telling you my dreams. Anyway, I'll talk to you later, and I hope you guys have a good day. I love you.